Picture yourself at a red light in 1966. The car next to you is a plain tan sedan with cheap hubcaps and minimal chrome. It looks like something your grandmother would drive to the grocery store. The driver sits quietly, not revving the engine or making a scene. You barely notice it. What you do not know is that under that ordinary hood sits one of the most powerful engines ever built by Chevrolet. The light turns green, and 20 seconds later, that boring sedan is gone, disappearing down the road while you are still trying to figure out what happened. This is the 1966 Chevrolet Biscayne 427, and it might be the greatest trick Chevrolet ever pulled. Only about 183 of these cars were ever made. Today, maybe 11 still exist. For a brief moment in the mid-1960s, Chevrolet accidentally created the perfect sleeper car, a vehicle so plain that nobody suspected what lived under the hood. This is the story of how it happened, why it mattered, and why collectors today will pay over $100,000 for the chance to own one. The Biscayne was never meant to be exciting. Chevrolet designed it as their cheapest full-size car, the one they sold to taxi companies, police departments, and families counting every penny. It came with vinyl bench seats, rubber floor mats, and absolutely no style. While wealthy buyers chose the glamorous Impala or the luxurious Caprice, budget shoppers settled for the Biscayne. It was transportation, nothing more. But Chevrolet had a secret hiding in their order forms. Buried deep among hundreds of option codes was something called RPO L72. For an extra $447.65, you could order the L72 427 cubic inch V8 engine. This was not just any engine. This was a 425 horsepower monster, originally developed for racing. This was the same engine you could get in the Corvette, America's premier sports car. And somehow, Chevrolet was willing to install it in their cheapest, most basic sedan. The result was automotive genius. From the outside, an L72 Biscayne looked identical to any other economy car on the road. The only clue was a small 427 turbo jet badge on the front fenders, easy to miss and easier to ignore. But inside that plain wrapper was a heart that produced 460 pound-feet of torque, enough force to light up the rear tires at the slightest touch of the gas pedal. The Biscayne 427 did not happen by accident. Its roots go back almost a decade, to when Chevrolet learned an important lesson about racing and selling cars. In 1957, Chevrolet created something called the Black Widow, a stripped-down 150 sedan painted black and white and designed specifically for stock car racing. The idea was simple but revolutionary. Take the cheapest, lightest body in the lineup and install the most powerful engine available. No luxury features meant less weight. Less weight meant faster speeds. Buck Baker drove one of these Black Widows to the 1957 NASCAR Championship, proving that sometimes the plainest cars could be the deadliest. A man named Vince Piggins was behind this strategy. Working as Chevrolet's product promotions manager, Piggins created a stock car competition guide that he mailed to over 400 dealerships. The guide explained exactly how to turn a basic Chevy 150 into a NASCAR racer, noting that the entry-level model was rugged and dependable, low in cost, with no unnecessary weight to hamper performance. This philosophy, cheapest body plus biggest engine equals fastest car, became something of an underground religion among racers. By 1966, Piggins and other performance-minded engineers at Chevrolet had refined this formula. The 427 engine was their newest and most powerful weapon. The Biscayne was the perfect place to hide it. There was another reason why Chevrolet made this combination possible. In 1963, General Motors had issued an internal ban on factory racing support. The company feared government investigations into their dominance of the auto industry. But the ban did not prevent Chevrolet from selling powerful engines in production cars. Engineers like Piggins found clever workarounds, making race-ready equipment available through regular dealership order forms. If you knew what boxes to check, you could build yourself a factory drag racer. Chevrolet would never advertise it. They would never promote it, but they would absolutely sell it to you. The L72 427 was not just a big engine. It was engineered for one purpose, making power. Understanding what made it special does not require an engineering degree. While ordinary engines were designed to run smoothly and quietly for years of trouble-free driving, the L72 was built to run hard and fast. At the bottom of the engine, a forged steel crankshaft, much stronger than the cast cranks in regular cars, spun with every revolution. 4 heavy-duty bolts on each main bearing cap held everything together under brutal stress. Most engines only had 2 bolts. The L72 had 4 race-grade parts, forged steel connecting rods, tougher than standard parts, transferred power to special aluminum pistons, designed to handle the extreme pressure inside each cylinder. The engine breathed through what racers called rectangle port cylinder heads, which had larger passages for air and fuel than standard heads. This allowed the engine to gulp in more mixture and exhale spent gases faster, especially at high RPM. A big Holley 4-barrel carburetor sat on top, flowing nearly 800 cubic feet of air per minute. Most importantly, the L72 used a solid lifter camshaft. In regular engines, hydraulic lifters automatically adjusted, themselves for quiet operation. But solid lifters allowed more aggressive valve timing, which meant more power. The trade-off was a distinctive lopey idle. The engine would rumble and shake at stoplights, a heartbeat that warned anyone paying attention that this was not a normal car. Chevrolet initially rated the L72 at 450 horsepower. Within weeks, they quietly changed the air cleaner decal to read 425 horsepower without making any mechanical changes. Many enthusiasts believe this was an attempt to avoid attracting government safety regulators. The engine likely made considerably more than its official rating suggested. Who would spend their hard-earned money on the fastest version of the cheapest car? The answer tells us a lot about American car culture in 1966. Some buyers were drag racers who understood the physics. Every pound you saved from a car meant faster acceleration. The Biscayne weighed about 3,895 pounds with the L72, hundreds of pounds lighter than an equivalently powered Impala or Caprice. Smart racers went further, checking boxes to delete the heater, which saved 22 pounds, delete the radio, and skip power steering. Every ounce counted when the light turned green. Then there were the buyers who valued stealth for more practical reasons. In an era of widespread street racing, looking ordinary meant your opponents always underestimated you. You could pull up next to a cocky kid in a striped muscle car, give no warning of what was coming, and then leave him in a cloud of tire smoke when the light changed. The satisfaction of that moment was worth more than any racing stripe. There was another, more practical reason why the sleeper concept appealed to buyers. Insurance companies were catching on to muscle cars. By 1966, insurance agents had started flagging certain vehicles for higher premiums. If your car wore SS badges or had aggressive styling, you could expect to pay significantly more for coverage. A study by State Farm Mutual would later reveal that muscle cars generated 56% higher insurance losses than regular vehicles, with collision claims running 50% higher and comprehensive claims, theft, and vandalism, a shocking 117% higher. Insurance agents reportedly developed a simple test. If your car weighed less than 10 pounds per horsepower, you faced expensive surcharges. The agencies did not have sophisticated databases tracking every option code. They looked at model names and appearances. This is where the Biscayne L72 became genius. On paper, it was just a Biscayne, Chevrolet's entry-level sedan, the same model taxi companies bought. No SS designation, no racing stripes, no special model name triggering insurance alarm bells. The young man who ordered an L72. Biscayne might pay the same insurance rate as his neighbors. Grocery-getting sedan, while secretly owning one of the fastest cars on the road. The psychology ran deeper than simple insurance dodging. In 1966, America was changing rapidly. The Vietnam War was escalating. Civil rights protests filled the evening news. The counterculture was rising. Against this backdrop, the sleeper car represented its own quiet rebellion, a rejection of automotive showmanship in favor of substance over style. While flashy muscle cars shouted loud and proud, the sleeper was the quiet rebel, the one that did not need to brag. It appealed to buyers who valued function over form, who preferred to prove themselves through performance rather than appearance. There was a certain confidence in driving a car that could destroy nearly anything on the road while looking like it might break down at any moment. The Biscayne 427's reputation grew through stories passed among enthusiasts, tales of unsuspecting victims who learned the hard way not to judge a book by its cover. When production ended, Chevrolet had installed the L72 427, in only 1,856 full-size cars for 1966. Most of those, 1,246, went into Impala Supersports, the model that received all the marketing attention. Only about 225 two-door sedans, combining Biscaynes and Bel Airs, received the big engine. The exact number of L72 Biscaynes is difficult to pin down because Chevrolet did not keep detailed records of every option combination. Most estimates suggest approximately 183 to 200 were built. That is out of nearly 1.5 million full-size Chevrolets produced that year, making the L72 Biscayne extraordinarily rare from day one. Then came the attrition. These cars were built to be driven hard, and most were. Drag racing took its toll. Street racing took its toll. Years of use wore out engines, transmissions, and bodies. Accidents destroyed some. Rust claimed others. By the time collectors realized what they had, most L72 Biscaynes had vanished forever. Today, researchers believe only about 11 original L72 Biscaynes still exist. 11 cars out of 183. The survival rate is roughly 6%, making these among the rarest muscle cars of the 1960s. The market has finally caught up with what racers knew back in 1966. A documented L72 Biscayne in excellent condition now commands serious money. In 2024, RK Motors listed a pristine example for $105,995. This particular car came with its original window sticker and sales invoice, documentation that proves its authenticity beyond doubt. It had won an AACA National First Prize Award, the highest honor in collector car judging. Other recent sales have ranged from around $60,000 for solid examples to well over $100,000 for cars with exceptional documentation and provenance. The key word is documentation. Because so few L72 Biscaynes were built, and because they looked identical to base model cars, fakes are common. Anyone can swap a 427 into an ordinary Biscayne, only the paperwork proves a car left the factory with the L72 option. Collectors prize several types of documentation. Original window stickers, the paper attached to the window when new, factory invoices, build sheets, found hidden under carpets or in seats, period photographs showing the car in its original condition. A car with complete documentation sells for significantly more than one without. The car that Bader Chevrolet originally ordered for drag racing underwent a 4-year frame-off restoration completed in 2010. It achieved perfect scores in AACA judging, 400 out of 400 points, meaning judges could not find a single flaw. That is the level of care these rare survivors now receive. The 1966 Chevrolet Biscayne 427 represents something important in automotive history, the triumph of substance over style. While the muscle car era celebrated bold colors, aggressive stripes, and screaming engines, the Biscayne 427 offered an alternative philosophy. It proved that true performance does not need to announce itself. It demonstrated that the smartest buyers sometimes chose function over form. It showed that a car could be simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary. Chevrolet discontinued the Biscayne name after 1972. The full-size performance sedan concept faded away, replaced by more efficient designs that emphasized fuel economy over straight-line speed. The era of the factory sleeper, the plain-looking car-hiding race car performance, essentially ended. But the legend survived. Hot Rod magazine featured restored L72 Biscaynes throughout the 1980s. Muscle car publications documented surviving examples. As collector car culture grew, enthusiasts began seeking out these rare survivors, recognizing them as important artifacts of a unique moment in American automotive history. The 1966 Chevrolet Biscayne 427 was never famous in its own time. It received no factory advertising, no magazine covers, no celebrity endorsements. It was, in the words of one historian, too plain for most buyers who thought of it as just a taxi cab with a big engine. Those buyers missed the point entirely. The whole idea was to look like a taxi cab. The whole idea was to be underestimated. The whole idea was to surprise everyone who thought they had you figured out. Fewer than a dozen remain. They are treasured now, displayed at concours events and carefully preserved in climate-controlled garages. They have earned their place in history, not despite their plainness, but because I love it. The 1966 Chevrolet Biscayne 427 proved that sometimes the most extraordinary things come in the most ordinary packages. And that lesson, like the cars themselves, endures.